All right. I think we're live. We'll just do this.
Oh, are we? Oh,
yep, hit record. Hit your little recording button.
All right, the record button has been pressed.
Mine has also been pressed.
The WAV is flapping around.
It's Monday, August 17th, 2020. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we have an update from 2007. We are revisiting the topic of removable media. Oh, I got an opening bit. So, yesterday, like I do every weekend, I ran a half marathon. And at one point, I was near the RFK Bridge, like coming over the bridge back from Randall's Island, like 10 miles into this run, feeling great, like going faster than usual because it's cool out. And there's a cop car sitting there. So I yell, defund the police and Black Lives Matter at this cop car. And they yell something at me, and then I flip them off because they're being weird, and I keep running. They do a screeching U-turn and start following me slowly. So I turn and I just keep running, and I run up a one-way street, and they can't follow me, and that's the end of that. Then I'm on I'm basically on Vernon Boulevard, like in the home stretch, like my last mile, and a cop car, which I now realize is the same cop car, it pulls into the bike lane behind me and follows me for like a mile, very slowly, and they keep doing their siren a little bit. What?
Yeah, they love that.
Yep. And then they start yelling at me out the window. Hey, fucko, what's your problem? Is the exact words they said. And they kept yelling it. So I stopped away from them. And the guy's like, come here. And I'm like, am I free to leave? Am I free to leave? I did the whole, am I being detained? Am I being detained? Am I free to leave? Am I free to leave? So
it's so annoying that like that is simultaneously the right thing to do. Yep. But it's also a thing that asks.
It's also a thing that Sovsits do.
It's like I learned that, correct thing to do from like shitty white libertarian assholes, right? And it's like, so it's like it's so dirty, but it's also the right thing to do in the U.S. and the United States. Yeah.
So eventually, they finally are like, yes, you are free to leave. So I just start running again. They waited in the bike lane for a while, and then gunned their engine and charged me with the car, swerved away at the last second, and splashed me with a giant wave of water. And then they sped off down the street, ran a red light, and turned left.
Yeah, that's what cops do.
So I called 911, and I learned some things. So one, in New York, if you call 911...
New York City or New York State?
New York City. On the police... They go into a different mode. They do not forward it to the police. They forward
a different mode where they write your name down in the book so that they...
I'm sure my name's in a book somewhere now. But instead, the 911 operator got like really worried and like called someone else into the conference call from the Internal Affairs Division and got a detective on the line with me. And basically...
Another cop.
This is a cop in IAV, like a different...
Sure.
She was kind of awesome. She basically, I described what happened.
Pretending to be awesome.
She's
like, who exactly do I need to high five later?
No, she actually took my formal complaint, and I will have the likely privilege of testifying against these two cops at a later date in an internal hearing.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, because basically...
I'm very surprised if that anything comes of that.
We'll see. So basically what was interesting is, one, they thought they put me on hold at one point, and they had a conversation where it was clear they did not think I could hear them. The detective lady, who sounded like a black woman, was basically, she was saying things to the effect of, this shit again. What cars were in that area? What cars were in that area? There are only 2 cars in Astoria. I want to know which one of them was on Astoria Boulevard and Vernon Boulevard. And she was mad. And then they're like that. And also the 911 operator was like, oh yeah, I got the call for this. And they exchanged all these codes, and it was a long conversation. Then like, she's like, okay, I'm going to get this guy back on. And then it cuts back to, they get quiet, and then they call me back in, and they're very like professional and like normal again. And that was really funny. I wish I could have recorded that, but it was a 911 call. So my phone was like in that weird
911 calls are public.
Yeah. So I could do an FOIA and get the audio of this.
If you should, because otherwise I'm piling a whole salt cellar full of salt on any rim stories like this.
That part happened pretty straight up. And when the detective got back on, what she basically said to me was, asking if I am being detained was the right thing to do. That's the only reason I probably have a case. Because
it's like I said, it's the right thing to do, but it's also the asshole thing to do.
And then she was like, did you give you an opportunity to ask for their badge number after they said you were free to leave? And I said, no, they immediately left. And then she was like, that is the second part. We'll get back to you. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, it's not illegal to just yell at cops.
Nope, exactly. But it is, according to that detective lady, assault to splash someone on purpose with your car.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
that is technically.
Can you prove that they splashed you with their car?
We'll see, because there were some witnesses.
How much were you splashed?
Like,
any of those witnesses are going to show
They
up?
backed up and they gunned it through the bike lane at high speed.
And there happened to be a puddle there?
Oh, it was during that rainstorm. I was running after that giant rainstorm on Sunday. It was like it was to the point that a guy who was running like further back stopped and was like, holy shit, are you okay? I actually got his details because he was a witness, and I gave those details to the cop. So that was a fun Sunday. So then I just finished my run and went home like normal.
I biked over the Tappan Zee Bridge again.
We're thinking about doing that this coming weekend. We're gonna go up Jersey, down New York. Seems like the right.
That's what I did. And so there were two problems, right? So problem one is the route that I used. I was not aware of this one hill that I got to, and elevation wise, the hill was, it was the tallest hill of the ride, but it wasn't that much taller than the first big hill, and it wasn't, the elevation of the first hill was not a problem. The problem was the steepness of the second hill. It was like, I look at it and it's like, looks like it's straight up. Google Street View, it doesn't look as scary as it did in real life. And the straight up part wasn't actually that long. It was like the hill just starts with a straight up part, right? All right. And like it starts with a straight up part, and that straight up part was just too steep. And I had to like walk that tiny little straight up part. And then I went week the rest of the hill, no problem, right?
So actually, the previous weekend, right after the hurricane, we went up from Van Cortlandt Park. We went past that fence that everyone tore down and took the South County Trailway extension, like all the way north.
How did you get? I couldn't get through it. So here's the thing.
Oh, it's open. So people just cut the fence. It's just open.
No. So on the way back, right? On my way back, I was coming down the county trail.
Were the trees still blocking it?
And no, there was no trees. There was at least one chainsawed up, cleaned away tree.
During the part that's the part that's technically open.
All right.
They did not clean up any trees in the part that's technically closed.
Anyway, so point is, I was coming down south, and I get to the end of the county trailway to where the Putnam Trail begins.
And there's that little fence there, right?
No, there was like a mega fence completely surrounding it on all sides, and they couldn't get around the fence.
There's a path. I've seen that fence. I have pictures of it. To the right, there's a path. People have cut a hole in the fence and marked it.
I could not see any way through.
We've gone through that hole multiple times. In fact, if you bike there at certain times, you'll see a bunch of other people also using this path.
I was on the north side trying to get through the fence, and I couldn't get through.
You have to walk like 2 or 3 minutes, like out of your way. But there's a little path that goes around that fence that people keep. Every time they patch it up, people cut it again. I've used it many times.
I couldn't get through the fence. I tried. Anyway,
you didn't try too hard. That is definitely open.
It was 100% sealed fence.
It was definitely not. So, but if you got in there, the one thing you would run into is there are 5 separate trees that are huge and are blocking the path so bad that you'll have to like climb up on top of the tree, like get someone to hand your bike up to you, toss your bike down the other side. There's like 5 of them.
Anyway, that would have been better than what I had to do, which is go way around like on some weird roads, like on a fence. There was like me, but like on the edge of the park between the highway and like.
I know where that is. I know that bullshit. Yeah. You can kind of get to the Moshulu, but not quite.
I eventually got to the Moshulu, then I was fine. Right?
Yeah, but you're like on this. You're on something that is not a trail for a while.
Getting from that fence to the Moshulu without being able to go through the fence was shitty.
I'm pretty sure I have a Strava of me doing that one time with Emily before we learned the gnosis of just go around the fence. There's a path.
I couldn't get through the fence.
Yeah,
that fence will be down soon enough, though. They finished the paving, it looks like.
No, the paving was not done because we rode that whole path the weekend before you took your ride. They did finish the bridges, but there's a lot more paving work that has to be done, and it's filled with downed trees.
Still mud action going on.
You have to walk through the mud a few times to get around other fences they've put up, and to get around.
Just literally, like, put literally any other way to get like a legit way. Just like make a temporary detour of some kind, so that you can get from there to like just somewhere else in the park. But it's like, no, from that fence, if you don't break through the fence, there's literally nothing to do besides hike in the woods and get muddy or something.
One time,
like
a few weeks ago,
temporary path of some kind to the west.
We took the secret path. We biked all the way south, and we got to the bottom. There was a big fence blocking the entrance to Van Cortlandt Park, so we were trapped. We were ready to go all the way back up and around from like the end of the trail.
At the bottom near the golf course entrance, there's also a mega fence.
Yeah, so we got there at a time when the fence was in place, and you know what? There was there 2 other bikers, one of whom had some wire cutters, and he was literally snipping the fence one by one.
Yeah.
And he cut a big hole in the fence, but it was taking him a while, so we went back. There's a secret path to the right over there, like 100 yards before the dead end. And if you go right, you can get into the golf course and around and get back out.
It's still annoying.
I know all the secret paths to use that bootleg bike path.
It's not a bootleg. It's supposed to be a legit path.
It's not done yet, so it's bootleg.
It should be done. What's taking so long?
COVID, I think, is the reason it's not done.
No, just get, they've been working. They've not been working. See, the thing is, if COVID's your excuse, they should have made 0 progress on it. Right? But they've actually made a ton of progress on it. Someone's working on it. Well, if you think it's safe enough to work on it, then it's safe enough to finish it.
I think it's just taking them a while because there's less people distributed.
Like, I wouldn't complain if they had done no work on it. I'd be like, oh, that's understandable. They've done no work on this. Clearly, it's not safe to come out here and work on this non-essential thing.
I can share something about that, because what I noticed was every time we used that path, there was more progress until the hurricane. Once all the trees were down, you should see. I got some pictures of these fucking trees that are down across that thing. No one is available to chainsaw up those trees. They
chainsaw trees on the county trail.
They only chainsaw trees in public trails, not yet open trails. They prioritize because there aren't that many people who can go chainsaw those trees.
Anyway,
that's our Bike Nights is back, guys. That's the story.
Oh, and more Bike Nights news. I got the fancy bike trainers coming.
Ooh, how is it? Because we got to get something before. I feel like late fall, everyone's going to buy bike trainers. They're all going to be sold out.
I mean, it's not here yet, but you should definitely. I already know that it's the best one. The point is, I'm going to get some Zwift action going on. So look for some Zwift streaming. If you don't know what Zwift is, Google for ZWIFT. As the alt, you're down the bike road if you're doing Zwift.
All right, so I guess it's Monday. We should talk about some news. There is pretty much like the biggest news. This is the biggest news in gaming. It's also some of the biggest news in tech because of the escalation that has occurred. It would have been big news anyway, but because of the escalation, this is more.
Yeah, so we recently talked about the antitrust hearing in the House, how it's one of the best hearings we've seen recently.
Yep.
There's some good ones in the past. This is also a good one, right? And how Apple in terms of antitrust has a lot less to complain about than say Google or Facebook, right? But there still was something to complain about, which is mostly the App Store, right? In that, they charge, if you have an app in the App Store, right? First of all, you cannot get your app onto Apple's App Store unless Apple approves.
Yep.
And secondly, if you do put an app in Apple's App Store, they make you, do things like use Apple login, or especially the biggest one is if you want to collect money from your customers in your app, let's say, you're Amazon and you have a Kindle app and you want to sell books, or you're RIM and you make a special podcast app and you want to sell podcasts,
yep.
Right? Or you make a video game and you put it in the App Store and you want to sell gambling. All of that money, if people spend the money directly in the app, you can make people go to your website to spend the money, and therefore in the app there is no way to spend money. The Apple's okay with that. But if you want people to give you money directly in the app, you must do it the Apple way, right? And Apple takes a 30% cut. They also take a 30% cut of the price of your app itself. So if your game that you're selling in the App Store is $20, what's 30% of $20?
Now, on one hand, one can argue that Apple does not have a monopoly on
$675, maybe? I don't know.
But Apple does not have a monopoly on smartphones.
$666.
So this the only monopoly here, ostensibly, is that Apple has a boutique device that is not even the majority device in this space. And if you use their boutique device, you are beholden to their weird rules in their closed walled garden ecosystem. Like, if you don't like it, you could go to Android. That's an argument that could be made.
That is the argument that Apple makes, indeed.
Yep, and it's kind of a fair argument because Apple is not even the majority market share compared to Android for a lot of reasons.
Right, but it's funny how it's like Apple, it's like when you see an Apple keynote, right, and they're reporting on like their numbers, they're like, look at how many phones we sold, look how much share we have, look how great we are, big numbers. And then at the antitrust hearing, they're like, oh no, we're so small, we didn't sell the most phones, we don't have the most market share, we're doing It's like, which one is it, bro? Which one is it, Tim Apple? Are you big or small? Make up your mind.
I'm looking for good numbers. They're actually weirdly hard to find in a cursory Google. I see numbers ranging from Android.
Everyone's measuring in different, metrics.
I just did one Google. One said Android 75%, iOS 25%, and another one said Android 51%. So.
Yep, exactly. You have to pay like some sort of group to get numbers you can maybe trust.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but all this aside, so yeah, Apple basically really Epic Games with Fortnite played a game with Apple. They seemed to try to get Apple to kick them out to then trigger this lawsuit, and they seem to have follow-up responses prepared for the things Apple was likely to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big news.
So it seems like what happened is, Epic, who makes Fortnite and the Epic Game Store and such things, right? They were like, all right, we're tired of Apple taking a 30% cut of all our Fortnite monies for our mobile app, right? And Google taking a cut of all our monies, whatever. So, what if we, put in our app, right, a way for people to pay us directly? It's like, well, it wouldn't get approved in the App Store. Aha, Well, we can get around that. We'll make our app so we can update it, so that we don't have to push out an App Store update. We'll make we'll do a back end push, right? We'll run the shop part off the back end, and that way we can surprise and put that in our game, in our app without having to push an App Store update and get approval. And they're like, all right, well then Apple's just going to kick us out of the store. What do we do then? Then sue them. But then Apple will take away all our developer access, and we won't even be able to continue because there are other people who are making apps for the App Store that are approved and totally legit using the Unreal Engine. We have a whole team of people working on the Unreal Engine, right? And making sure that the Unreal Engine can build iOS apps.
The Unreal Engine, remember, is run by Epic Games.
That's right. So you're an independent developer. You pay or for free use the Unreal Engine to make iOS games, right? Or make a game that's multi-platform, including iOS, and you want your game to be approved in the App Store, right? So you use Unreal Engine, you make a game. Let's say we made GeekNights the game using the Unreal Engine. Okay. Well, there's people at Epic working on the Unreal Engine, and they need Apple development kits so that they can make sure the Unreal Engine works, and builds iOS apps properly so that all the other people using Unreal Engine to make iOS apps, right, are going to be okay. If they lose all our developer access, well, then that means that whole team of people who work on the iOS aspects of Unreal Engine can't work because all their Apple development kits stop working, and they will not be able to update the Unreal Engine development kits to people who are developing iOS apps with that engine.
So a fundamental question here is going to come down to, can Apple take these kinds of actions against their boutique market share in their walled garden or not?
Right. So Epic saw all these things in advance, and rather than have their lawyers scramble overnight to respond to each thing that Apple or Google would do, right, in response to them, they prepared all the things in advance. They definitely did. You can just tell.
Yeah, but I'm saying we don't have any special knowledge here.
I have not proven that they have done this. But
also, we are not lawyers, and we're not giving legal advice.
I've never seen lawyers in my whole life prepare responses this quickly to things. They could be overworking the lawyers, I guess. That's a possibility, right? But it's basically, you're seeing responses bam. It's
well, so what's funny?
They set everything up and they said, okay, they do this, we do that. They do this, we do that. And they're moving things around.
They send one of yours to the hospital, you send 10 of theirs to the morgue.
That's right. That's how they do it.
So what I have in front of me right now is Epic has filed for basically an injunction or like a restraining order. They're basically saying we need an immediate remedy to the fact that Apple is cutting the Unreal Engine off from the Apple Store. Like they're filing a motion here. And the preliminary statement in this injunction is really funny. Quote, just over 2 weeks ago, Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, was asked during a congressional hearing whether Apple has, quote, ever retaliated against or disadvantaged a developer who went public about their frustrations with the App Store. Mr. Cook testified, quote, we do not retaliate or bully people. It's strongly against our company culture. But Apple...
He did say that. I heard him say that live.
But Apple has done just that. And then it goes in, like it uses the word ferociously. It's a pretty good...
Yeah, they're basically coming... So not only are they're going to court not only to argue that Apple is violating antitrust law with their App Store policy, but also that Tim Cook is guilty of perjury.
But at the same I don't know how I want this lawsuit to go.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's like, I don't like, it's like, it might sound like we're saying, yeah, Epic, go after them. But it's like...
I am, because Apple should be broken up and should not be as powerful as it is.
Epic also bad. This is not a situation where it's like, I'm rooting for either side. I'm rooting for certain outcomes, right?
I would like an outcome where app stores above a certain line on any platform have to allow third parties and cannot prevent them.
I would like the court to say, yeah, Apple, you must let anyone sideload apps onto iOS. You can't, right?
Yeah, that would be fine with me. Even if Apple could still keep their 30% cut of the store, I would be okay with that.
Right. I'm saying is like, if you have a platform that is, or a market or something that is too big, you must allow, people to sell on the thing, too bad. Yep. If users want to compromise their own security, right, and their own stability of their own devices, that's on them. I'm okay with that, right? Yeah.
Now, Google has also now banned Fortnite from their app store. I don't think that one's moving as quickly. Like, there aren't as many rapid developments as there are in the Apple one.
The key difference there is like, okay, at Fortnite, Epic doesn't want to let Google take a cut, right, of the money, but you can still get Fortnite on Android by sideloading or installing some other store or some shit. You just can't get it in the Google store that you would have to get a cut.
Quote, while Fortnite remains available on Android, we can no longer make it available on Play because it violates our policies.
Yep, exactly.
Now, Google apparently also said they're open to discussing the issue with Epic Games, so...
Right, well, that's another thing, right? So on the one hand, right, for all of Apple's shitty policies, right, for the most part, right, they have actually, in the past, they've been guilty of not doing this. I can name some instances like involving Spotify and Apple Watches and such. But as of now, right, Apple, if you submit an app to the App Store, it goes through the same process as even, Apple said this during the hearing, and it is true as of now, that even Apple's own apps, right, it's like the calculator app, go through the same approval process, right? But of course, that doesn't include taking a 30% cut because they get a cut of their own shit. Also, their own apps are free.
Now, I'm pretty sure that 30% cut is one of the, that is probably crucial to Apple's business plan. And I don't think Apple is even the same company without that cut.
No, not at all. But
fuck all big companies, so.
Right, of course. But anything that you could do when you're developing an iOS app, Apple could do. And Apple is not doing anything more. They're not using APIs that you're not allowed to use or whatever. They have in the past, but as of now, they are not, supposedly, right? There's the same requirements, but you look at Google and say, oh, Google's willing to negotiate here. It's like, okay, but that means that Google is holding different people to different standards, right? It's like, oh, you're going to negotiate with Epic and let them get away with something on the Google Play Store and get a special deal that a small-time developer can't get, right? Can't get that deal. I'm just a small time. I'm not big and I'm not Fortnite. So that's also bullshit, right?
Quote, left unchecked, Apple's actions will irreparably damage Epic's reputation among Fortnite users, will be catastrophic for the future of the separate Unreal Engine business. If the Unreal Engine can no longer support Apple platforms, the software developers that use it will be forced to use alternative. The damage to legalese after that. The damage will be unquantifiable and irreparable. That's something you see in this kind of lawsuit a lot, that language.
Right. So the point is, you look at like two different monopolies, the Google and the Apples, right? And even the Epic to some extent, right? They're not monopoly, they're just too big, right? And it's like, yeah, they all do different things, and all those things are bad. There's no good thing. It's not like, oh, they're doing something different, therefore they're good. It's like, no, they're just bad in a different way.
Of course, they are in other avenues, like with Steam. They're challenging Steam's like absolute hegemony of online stores pretty well.
Yeah, Steam also bad, taking a big old cut.
But as a consumer, I only want to go to one place.
That's right.
Thus, all the conflicting motivations of people involved.
That's Amazon's big thing. It's like, oh, Amazon, yeah, Amazon fucks everyone over except for their customer.
Yep.
Right? And that's why you keep buying shit on Amazon. Well, one day, and the next day, you're like, just break up Amazon. They're big evil monopoly.
I try to buy stuff on non-Amazon platforms when I can, but oftentimes I can't. And I'm basically willing to do anything before I will go to a physical store, even before COVID. I just hate going to physical stores. That's all I want, is to be able to buy stuff online.
I was just looking to buy a bike helmet, right? Because my helmet is it died again.
Yep.
I couldn't replace the fuzz again for like the third time, fourth time. And it's like the bike shop was too crowded.
Yep.
And the bike shops, do they have the helmet I want? Do they have it in the color and size that I want? That hasn't been, touched by anyone's COVID-ness, right? It's like, well, I guess I got to buy one online, direct from the manufacturer. Sorry, local bike shop, right? You can't have an amazing selection of helmets, even in non-COVID times.
Honestly, I pretty much, like lately, any technology, I always buy directly from the manufacturer if that is an option. And if that's not an option, then I buy it from Amazon.
Yeah.
But that's like big technology stuff. Partly because of the scammers I keep running into on Amazon buying technology.
All right, well, we managed to kill the whole news with one news, so we can move on.
We can probably skip the other ones. You probably don't care about that secure boot grub outage yet, or that problem. So we'll just get right into things of the day. So we live in Queens. There are things that I love about living in the city that I don't get to do right now because of the quarantine. So we stumbled onto this YouTube channel, and it seems like it's just like compilations. Like it gets a bunch of videos from all the internet, like makes a compilation. But the compilation series that they're making really just hit me right in the nostalgia kidney. It's called Only in New York, and they're still making them even during the quarantine. It's just, here are random like 5 or 6 second clips of video from all over New York City. And it's basically, if you watch one of these, I'll link to one. They're like 10 minutes long. It's just, this is why I live in New York. It's like, here's someone with a cute dog on the subway. Here's someone riding a 10-foot-tall unicycle down the West Side Highway for some reason. Here's a cool busker. Here's someone shaving their legs in their car while driving, like parked in traffic in Manhattan. It's the fabric of life in New York that I love and miss. But the moment in this video that actually got me the worst was, we were just watching it, and it was a subway drama situation. But during the subway drama, it was like the low-key drama where like no one's going to get hurt, but there's some drama happening, and the person recording the video is recording like a selfie, and they're just looking at the camera with that look. The look of, there's some shit going down behind me, and I really just want to close my eyes and ignore it.
Yep.
But then I hear the sound of the subway doors closing, and I realized I have not heard that sound since March.
Yeah.
These videos are weird, like especially watching the videos, like we watched a bunch of them. They're all just like normal New York, but then you see like the quarantine start to happen, and then the videos are very different.
Ooh.
So yeah, my thing of the day, this whole channel is just like very...
I probably have a lot of video like that just on my hard drive somewhere.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of like, some shit's going down, I'm going to video it in case either World Star happens, or I need to like help someone file charges against the cops.
But I have lots of videos that could go on that channel probably in my archive, but just to dig them out would be way too much effort.
Yeah, like if I go back, there's video from last year that I just remember where I was walking to Hibino and 2 cars almost got into an accident, and like 5 people got out of both of the cars and almost had a street brawl.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you got?
What do I have? So everybody knows back in the day playing Minesweeper on their Windows 3.1, Windows 95 PC, right?
Yep.
I don't think Minesweeper still comes with Windows. It does not. That is a shame. I'm sure you can get it if you want to play Minesweeper. There's probably just a website you can go to play Minesweeper, right? But people don't know is that Minesweeper, the way the game worked, it was theoretically possible. that at the end of a game of Minesweeper, you could be in a situation where it was not logically possible to determine where the final mines were. You would have to guess. Like, there was no option but to guess. It would be in one of two spots, and you have to guess, and you might win or lose, right? And that was very disappointing because you'd be like, hey, I used my skills of deduction to figure out where every mine was using the clues, and I got this far, but now there's no, whether I win or lose is just a coin toss. That's bullshit, right? I want to be able to decide my way to the end. People also don't know that, Minesweeper, what if you start a game of Minesweeper and the first click is on a mine?
I didn't even know that was possible. I always assumed it set the seed when you click because I never knew. I've never seen that happen in my life.
Here's why. In Windows Minesweeper, the old Microsoft Minesweeper, the only one you've played probably, right? If your first click happens to be a mine, it re-rolls the seed until it's not a mine. So it does.
I figured it was something like that.
It rolls a seed, but then if your first click happens to be a mine, it will re-roll.
Oh, I think I broke it.
It will re-roll.
I was playing with it a whole bunch, and now the link is dead.
Oh, no. It will re-roll a whole bunch until,
Yeah, I think I brought it back. It's good. They brought it back.
Anyway. So, my thing of the day is someone made this ingenious thing, which is way better than you think. Pure skill Minesweeper. So, obviously, it eliminates that problem at the end of the game and beginning of the game, right? Where, it's like, oh, yeah, you don't want to get burned just by luck at the end, right? But it goes actually a step further. What it does is all right, well, if we're going to allow this re-rolling of the mines nonsense, right, then what we're going to do is not only at the end of the game, right, if you're stuck in a situation where you have to guess, right, and there's no other option but guessing, we're going to make your guess always be a good guess. It's like, you have to guess. We're not going to screw you over. You recognized in the game that guessing was necessary. You clicked and guessed. Congratulations. We're going to make sure we're going to move the mines out of the way and give you a successful click, right? Whether that's the first click at the beginning or at the end, right? You had to guess. The first click of the game, you have to guess, right? The last click, you might have to guess, depending on the scenario.
Yeah.
You won't lose if you have to guess, right? We won't screw you over. But what if you're in a situation where you don't have to guess? There is a way to figure it out. And you say you're too lazy, or you're not good enough, and you don't realize that there is a way to figure it out. And you just go ahead and guess when you didn't have to guess. The game will also re-roll to put the mines in the way and punish you. It's like,
that is brilliant.
It's like, oh, you clicked on that spot. Yeah, well, guess what? There wasn't a mine there in that spot, but you clicked that spot, and there was no way for you to have known that was a safe spot. You clicked that spot, but there wasn't a mine. You were lucky, but you couldn't have known that there wasn't a mine. There's no way for you to know that was safe, and you weren't forced to guess in this scenario because you could have clicked over here. You knew that this other spot was safe. We're putting a mine there. You're dead, buddy. You suck. And that's pure skill Minesweeper. Check it out to get your Minesweeper fix. RIP Microsoft Solitaire. Microsoft Minesweeper. Hello, pure skill Minesweeper.
Yep, it's pretty good. I was poking at it.
Yep.
All right, in the meta moment, we're not really reading the book club book right now.
Nope. We are appearing at the Crunchyroll online convention. When is that? Where is that?
They haven't posted a schedule yet, but it is I think I just posted the news. It's coming up soon, beginning of September. And
okay, whenever that is.
We'll have a never-before-seen panel. It's like a newer, highly evolved, rarefied version of our Judge Anime by its cover.
It's a seen many times before panel.
Well, so basically, instead of just judging a bunch of anime like we were doing on YouTube, we took way back when we did this at Anime Boston in person. What we did is we spent 10 minutes explaining how we judge, and then we judged everything. We basically made the whole panel about how we judge and went kind of deeper into how we figured that out.
It's basically the most interesting thing is the Anime Boston. It's not a whole new panel. It's barely tweaked from what we've done in the past.
I looked at those old slides. We did it a lot better this time.
I mean, just doing something better. You can't say this is a whole new never before seen panel.
I didn't say never before seen. We did a lot more.
That's exactly the words you used. They're just been recorded in this podcast. Right? Unless you edit them out and this whole section out before you upload it.
But there is a lot of never before seen content because we expanded upon all those examples and went deeper with a lot more heuristics.
Sure. Anyway, we are also recording a panel for the PAX online convention. No duh.
Yep.
We're obviously doing that.
Where is the finish line? This one is completely new. In fact, we haven't even finished the slides yet, and we're recording
this
it
is a 100% new panel that I've been working on slowly. I had the idea before the virus times, then there was the virus. We probably would have done it at like PAX
West.
This
would have been a PAX West panel.
Yep.
In fact, I think I even put it in for PAX West. Like I was planning on doing it at PAX West.
Yep. But anyway, I wrote this panel over a long period of time.
I'm currently editing and tweaking, like we're getting ready.
Almost a year ago. But yeah, the panel is about, right, you're designing a game, and no matter what game you're designing, there needs to be some rule in the game that says the game ends when this happens, right? When does hockey end? After the third 20-minute period of play, right? That's when it ends. When does Monopoly end? When everyone's bankrupt except one person. That's right. You have to make up this rule, no matter what game you're making. Video game. When does it end? When Ganon dies and you pick up the Triforce after the Prince, Princess Zelda. Right? There has to be a rule for when the game ends. Assuming that you are designing an ortho game, a game in which there are multiple players competing to win or lose and be ranked, how do you design this rule a good way and not a bad way? That is what this panel is about. Such a small, narrow focus, 1 hour's worth of content. And so check the panel out if you want to know that.
Yeah. And we're still writing it, so we're still getting some. We're writing like details, like filling in.
It's
images.
Like 99. It's 99% done.
It's a good flow. What's cool is that this is a topic we, in a lot of our recent talks for like the last 4-ish years, will edge into and talk about the surface level, but then we move on.
There's a lot of panels in the past. There's a lot of panels in the past where we've talked about games that have bad endings or go on too long, go too short. We've talked about quitting. Quitting is related to ending, right?
Take Your Damn Turn, where we talk about exactly why some games go on too long.
Yep, there's length of games. All of that ties into ending, right? So now we're just going to focus on the actual ending part.
Yeah, it should be a good time.
Yep.
Any
other meta anything? No, let's just
follow
go on.
us in all the places like Google GeekNights if you're not
You're
sure who we are.
You're already listening to this podcast. You found us on all the places.
Somehow you found us. So whatever you did to find this, just look around in the same area and you'll find the rest of our stuff.
If there's a social network or any kind of thing that you use, guess what? We're there.
We don't use Snapchat. Is that still around? The kids using Snapchat?
I don't think we're on Snapchat, no.
Yeah, so there you go. We're not there. I guess we're technically on Facebook, but not that I would know. I don't have a Facebook account.
I only have the Facebook account because of that page.
So, in an ancient time, I'll link to this episode on January 29th, 2007.
13 years ago?
We had already been podcasting for like 2 years.
Yep.
And 2, we did a show called Removable Media. I'm sure, in fact, I'm going to read it. Tonight on Geek Nights, we talk about floppy drives, CD-ROMs, DVDs, cassettes, and more. 100% of those things are obsolete.
Yeah.
Funnily enough.
In only 13 years.
The funny, weird thing is when I went to this old episode, one thing of the day is just gone. The other one's there, this Frank Zappa thing, like it's on YouTube, it's still up. But we were talking about an Apple antitrust lawsuit in Norway.
Yeah, because the Apple iTunes DRM on the music at the time meant that you could only listen to songs bought in iTunes on iPods. And Norway was like, no. If people buy music from iTunes, they should be able to play it on any audio device. That's antitrust violation in Norway. And then they fixed it by removing the music DRM in the Apple Store and iTunes. And that doesn't matter anymore because now everyone has Apple Music and Spotify. So.
Yep, that's the follow-up. But back then, we probably talked about the history a bit based on, we mentioned floppies and whatever. We don't need to get into the history too much, but...
You just listen to the old episode.
Yeah. But this episode will be interesting, not from the perspective of me talking about my use of a zip drive for so long, but more about 2007 was a long time ago, and the world is radically different in a lot of ways. Technology is radically different. How people interact with technology is radically different. So... what does removable media look like now in the year 2020? Because, I don't really use removable media except SD cards in cameras.
Yep.
That's the only removable media I have.
For the most part in 2020, most people don't need any removable media or very little because, the kind of read-only removable media, some people out there are still using Blu-rays for whatever reason, I don't know, right? They're just opposed to, they really want to own that plastic useless disc.
There is one use case for Blu-ray. If you want to watch a movie without gradient problems in the dark spaces.
Sure. Or if you want to be the person who rips the Blu-ray for everyone else to watch with their pirated copy. You're the pirater for everyone else. That's the reason. But yeah, so people aren't buying things on removable media anymore, right? People, when they need to transfer their own data around to other devices,
which is what we're mostly going to talk about today.
Right. Most people could just use a cloud service of some kind, right? You use your Dropbox, your Google Drive, your, Adobe Creative Cloud, your iCloud, right?
And I think normal people, like before we talk about us, a normal person takes pictures with their phone. They're already uploaded to the cloud somewhere. And then if they're on their PC, they go to like whatever thing their phone was doing to mess
Google
with their photos.
iCloud Photo. People use AirDrop on iPhones to send things directly.
Yep.
People just text photos to each other, right? They just Facebook message photos to each other, right? It's like, music, people don't really have MP3s anymore, but if they did, they could just transfer them the same way. Usually you'll just send a link to the song on Spotify or whatever, Apple Music, whatever it is, you send a link in a text message, right? It's like there is very little reason to use removable media. The only reasons to use removable media these days is if you have some non-computer recording device and you need to transfer a large amount of data, which would be too large or too slow to transfer over the network.
Yep.
Or if you have a device that has in itself limited storage capacity, you can enhance its storage capacity. For example, a Nintendo Switch, usually with a micro SD card. And then you could use that micro SD card as to transfer some things if you needed to, or to back up if you needed to. But usually you're just expanding the storage of the one device, and that's it.
Yep. So like I have these 3 Marances that we use for Geek Nights, like audio recording on the go, like at conventions. That takes compact flash. So I have a whole bunch of compact flash cards that I'll use for that for the foreseeable future.
But nothing new would use compact flash.
Nope.
Right? Even the latest and greatest cameras, which used to be that when you buy the Ultra Pro cameras, they had compact flash. They're pretty much all SD now.
SD's plenty fast, plenty big.
I think Nikon might have a special memory card that they might still use in some cameras, but for the most part, it's like everything has SD slots now, even the highest end stuff.
Now,
right?
pros have a different use case, but what they'll often use, like if we had if our cameras were all like 1 step bigger or 2 steps bigger, and we're recording a lot of video, we wouldn't be rotating SD cards. We'd be basically having the camera send the raw video to some sort of device that's filled with hard drives.
Yeah,
go Google for this stuff. You'll find like people will sell what basically is a suitcase that you plug like an SDI cable into it, or like 5 SDI cables into it, and it just records video to a whole bunch of spinning hard drives inside of itself, or or like flash hard drives inside of itself.
Yeah, well, because hard drives, in 2007, we were mostly, to get a solid state drive was a big deal.
Yeah, I had like a 256 gigabyte solid state drive that I barely got Windows and stuff installed on, I want to say.
I think I had a 16 gig one, maybe, was the first one I got.
That was pre-256. That was probably 32 gig.
I think in 2007, if I even had one at all, I think my first solid state drive was a 16 gig one. But anyway, so nowadays, most people don't need a magnetic drive in any device they have because they don't have that much data. You're having solid state drives. The solid state drives are so small these days that you can just put them in devices and so you can get a lot of storage with no moving parts.
Well, like my GoPro, I have 2 micro SD cards that are 256 gigabytes each. They cost like nothing. They're the size of my pinky fingernail.
Yeah. It's like, all right, well, I guess we don't need storage. It's like, I guess we don't need any other kind of external anything, right? If we got that.
Now, what's interesting, in 2007, one thing I did...
looked it up. The Nikon D5, which is like the big monster giant Nikon, has a compact flash slot and an XQD slot, which is the special Nikon thing. It doesn't have SD.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's a thing.
Yep. So in terms of our actual usage, like the only other thing I really used as like removable media for in the modern era was a USB stick for like quickly moving a file around. Like, oh, I got a file on my laptop. Let me go put it on my desktop. But I have gigabit Ethernet like inside of my apartment, and I have a NAS inside of my apartment. Anything on my laptop either goes up to Google Cloud or up to any of my other cloud providers, or just goes up to my NAS, and now I can access it from any computer. And even worse, like, nowhere I work will let you plug a USB stick into anything, so it's not like I can use it to transfer files like home from work or anything. Really, I have no use for a USB stick. Like, I don't have any working USB sticks except for a dish full of old ones that I guess I should go see if there's anything interesting on them and then just delete them all and throw them away. I
use USB sticks for very rare occasions, right?
So I used to put a backup copy of our panels on a USB stick that I would keep in my pocket when we traveled to a convention. So if all our luggage got lost and all our technology broke, that USB stick plus borrowing a laptop from someone would be enough to do the panel. I don't even bother with that anymore.
Nope. Because the panel's backed up on the internet. I could run the panel off my phone if I had to. I could get the panel from Google Slides.
Yep. I download a PDF to the laptop in case Google goes down.
I have an HDMI output from my phone that I can run the panel with just the phone and nothing else.
Yep.
Right.
Like that panel exists in so many places.
Okay, so actually I just looked up again. I looked at the Nikon D5. I wasn't aware the Nikon D6 is out. It also does not have SD. But the Nikon, that's like a mega DSLR, like a giant freaking thing, right? The Nikon D850, which would be like a normal DSLR.
I just looked in my Amazon history from 2007. I spent $36 on a 2 gigabyte USB stick.
Wow.
On December 18th, 2007.
Wow.
A Kensington Data Traveler 2 gigabyte USB drive.
Yeah.
That costs more than the harmonica I bought at the same time.
Yep. So I think that basically what it comes down to is if you're a normal person who does not acquiring a large amount of data by recording video or
I also bought a book, a physical book that had a map of the subway and a map of New York City in it.
Oh, yeah.
The NFT.
In 2020, you might just need maybe some SD cards and you're good to go for all your external storage. Like if you really want to back up your stuff, because you have stuff to be backed up and the cloud backup is not sufficient for your personal needs, but you don't have a lot of data. So I don't see why a couple cloud backups wouldn't be sufficient. Quick to upload, quick to download.
You know what else I bought in 2007? A portable DVD player. With an LCD screen that could play a DVD directly.
Wow. You could just back up your life to like an SD card and put that in a safe place and you're good to go, right?
Yeah. In fact, in this middle era between this show and the last time we talked about this, with my old laptop, one thing I started doing is I stopped using USB sticks because my laptop had an SD slot. So I would just use SD cards the way I used to use USB sticks.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, now I don't even do that, but there was a time when I did.
Yeah. But nowadays, if you are a person who has a lot of data, if you got photos, you're going to use SD cards, right? And you might need like a NAS or some kind of larger store, but that's not removable, right? We've done NAS shows twice, right? You're just going to need something to back those up to, maybe like a larger portable hard drive. There are some storage devices these days that have their own network access, right? So like they have their own Wi-Fi access, so you can connect your phone to them wirelessly. Assuming all you've got is a phone and the storage device, you can connect your phone to the storage device with Wi-Fi and send data back and forth, usually with an app, to back up the phone or load things from the storage device to the phone. So that's a thing if you're doing stuff on the go. But yeah, it's like removable media it's like first the physical media died, right? But what is physical media other than read-only removable media?
Yeah.
So it's like if we don't need physical media anymore, it's because we're downloading everything. Well, that means the network is so good, that I don't need removable media to because really it's just a way to transfer and store, right? So
like in
to
the old
transfer,
days,
I can use the network, and to store everything, every device has storage, and I have cloud storage. So it's stored on every place I want it to be stored.
Here, Scott and I had to record a panel for the Crunchyroll Expo, that Judge Anime panel, remotely. So at the end of that, I had 50 gigabytes of video, and Scott had 50 gigabytes of video. In the olden times, Scott would have to like put that on a SD card or USB stick and physically get it to me. Scott just uploaded it to Google, and then I downloaded it. Like, that was it. It just works.
Well, that is because we both have FiOS, right? So we both have fast internet. If I still had slow internet, that would have taken so long that it might have still been faster to transfer using physical means.
To bike it over here.
Right. So we could have used the SD cards, right? So, but if you look, there are still some cases where people have to transfer so much data that even the fast internet or even a LAN is too slow. And in these cases, there are many services being offered. Amazon offers one, I know. I think Google does as well, maybe, where they will send you a hard drive or a storage device of some kind that you then plug in to your local network or local devices, fill it up, and mail it back to them. And if you are sending enough terabytes of data, then the cost of doing this, which is actually not that high, and the speed, it becomes worthwhile, because if for you to do the network transfer, it would have been faster, because local transfer is still faster than network transfer. Even if you have gigabit Ethernet connection, it's like, like a friggin', USB-C cables can go faster than that, right? So, eSATA can go faster than that.
Yeah.
Maybe I can plug something in directly to a PCI Express slot, MVNO or whatever it is called these days.
I just can't get over this 2 gigabyte USB stick.
NVMe. MVNO is mobile voice something. NVMe is the thing I was thinking of. You can see why I would confuse the two. At least I hope.
Yeah, but at least in our professional use cases, we have no real uses for physical media day to day. Like in 2007. I carried a USB stick on my keychain all the time, just in case, with some critical files and stuff.
In 1997, I carried a plastic container full of floppy disks that I still have.
I carried the same around. It had important games and important files for school.
It had my butt client.
At RIT, and when I was a freshman, I had one zip disk that I would put into the internal zip drive of my PC. And all my Visual Basic projects for my programming classes were on that zip disk. And then I'd take it to the lab, which also had an internal zip drive.
Mm-hmm.
And then RIT set up the network better so I could access remote shares over the RIT network. And then that zip drive was just a waste of money and I never used it again.
Yeah.
They set that up by the end of our freshman year, if I recall correctly.
So my prediction here is actually that given another 13 years, right? The capacity of the SD cards, right? If they can make it, if they reach the limit, they reach a limit. But I'm not sure if they will or not. But if they don't reach a limit, or if the limit is high enough, you're gonna have maybe a terabyte SD card or something, right?
Well, here's one way to go. Remember, video, the camcorder we used to use for GeekNights, it had an SD card slot, but its selling point, because back then SD cards were tiny, was that it had a hard drive in it. And the idea was you record directly in camera, and the camera itself plugs into a computer via the much faster USB to get the data off of it.
Right. So if you can get storage that small, that large, you're not going to need removable storage, because you're never going to fill up any device you've got.
Yep. You just need the fast cable coming out of that device, whatever it is.
Right. You only need a way to transfer between devices, right? That's fast. And I think probably that networks, I think, are just going to get faster also, especially if, we look at 5G, there's going to be a 6G, right? And plus the potential of 5G speed-wise is really way up there compared to what they're actually going to give us. But over time, they'll make it faster. They'll actually give us, more of the full 13 years. Yeah, it's going to get faster, right?
Yep.
So what you're going to see is transfer between devices will be so fast that you won't almost never need to use some other mechanism to transfer data other than just wireless connection, right? It's oh, okay, I recorded a 4K video on my camera and it's already on my computer because transferring it was as fast as writing it to the storage internal to the camera. It's like, okay, great. Oh, yeah, like my camera, I can push a button on it, and it can just live stream the video itself, right?
And we're getting there. Like, the newer version, like, my camcorder is a little old at this point already because time's flying. But, and also I bought it toward the end of its, like, life cycle because I knew a new one was coming out, and it was way cheap because of that. But the newer version of my camcorder has RTMP streaming and Wi-Fi just built in. Plug an Ethernet cable into it, it'll just stream RTMP over that Ethernet cable. Wi-Fi, it'll just do it.
Yep.
Now, RTMP is not going to, you're not going to stream your like 8K 60 video over that shit.
No.
But if you're like, I'll record in 4K to the SD card on a future camera like that. But a lot of the time, what I'm doing is live streaming where I don't need that quality. The dual channel.
In 13 years, you will be able to, maybe it'll be expensive, but you'll be able to live stream like 4K video directly from a phone or other camera, like directly to like Twitch or whatever. It's like 4K video, you got a camera, you don't need any other equipment at all. It records it locally, encodes it, streams it, and there's no lag or any problems, and you don't need removable storage to transfer or do anything like that. You can just do it. Everything will be fast enough.
Well, that's one future, because the other future is we're hiding in the hollowed out remains of an abandoned U.S. Postal Service office trying to survive.
Assuming we make it to the future of 13 years. That is the level of technology in this one specific area.
Yep.
It's weird because it's like, the cliche has always been, at least since the CD, I think, and since the DVD, there's been this cliche of, old people used records, young people use a different thing. Because before the record, and there was the wax cylinder, right? There weren't too many recorded medias before that, right?
The wax cylinder was really, there's a bunch of cool stuff.
Book.
Yeah.
Right? There weren't too many, right? So it's like there's always been this cliche of like this generation used this kind of physical media, the previous generation used a different one. But we're going to reach basically, we saw the beginning, we're going to see the end where it's like, no, there'll be generations, and between the generations, there weren't any differences in physical media because there was just none. They didn't use any. This generation used none, and the generation after them used none.
There is one place physical media will persist even in that future, but that is the archival use cases that are not operational use cases.
They're not things that everyday people will use. They're only things that businesses or other operations.
Yeah, like in that future, your cell phone will stream 8K 60 video if you want, but the studio camera records a full 3D environment in real time and infinite brain resolution. But that's the thing that has physical media, and normally people don't use that.
So even though this is a repeat show from 13 years ago, I think, the situation is drastically changed.
Well, I might listen to that old episode just to see. One, that's 2007. That was so long ago.
I'm sure we did something, I'm always worried about the old Geek Nights episodes because I'm sure we said some shit we should be canceled for.
Actually, you never listened to the remastered with commentary beta episodes that I uploaded because I pointed out a few things.
Did we say bad shit?
Not too bad, but we got close multiple times. You used some words you don't use anymore because you didn't know better. I do.
I know.
Yeah, I know. We both. But it's not as bad as I expected. It wasn't that bad. We were mostly okay, and that was the beta episodes that we didn't think anyone would ever hear. But in terms of how much we've changed, so I've kind of been looking at my Amazon history, which actually gives me an idea for a Thursday fun show. We should both just go into our online order history, pick an early year, and look at all the shit we ordered that year, and talk about what that archaeology is about our lives. Because you know what else I bought in 2017 or in 2007? Historical maps of the Napoleonic Wars, a Go board, a whole bunch of El Hazard DVDs, and I bought a primer for the LSATs because I was thinking about quitting my tech job and taking the LSATs and going to law school.
Let's do that on a Thursday. Write that down.
I'm writing that down right now because otherwise we will not do that.
But this week is Wednesday. We got to do something
Next
else.
Thursday we'll do that show if we remember that I said this and I look at this note that I just wrote.
And with that, I'm super hungry. Let's end this too long show.
Bam, easy show.